we really want to bring in people who have a real cultural fit, have a real caring sense to them, a real sense of wanting to serve and do well for other people. Because whether they have the greatest skill sets at the time, we figure we can train them in all the things they need to learn. If they need to learn how to be a better server or be a better caregiver or be a better maintenance guy, we can teach them all of that. What I can't teach somebody is to care. I can't teach them to have that heart. They have to kind of come by that a little naturally.
Welcome to the Answers for Elders radio show.
And welcome everyone to Answers for Elders Radio Network, heard across the USA on YouTube. I am again here at Chateau Retirement Community in Lynnwood, which is called Chateau Pacific. In Lynnwood, Washington, it's north of Seattle, about a 30-minute drive for those of you that are, watching us from across the USA. And I am very excited today to talk to you a bit about how many of you may be in the process of touring for and looking at retirement living communities. And I think one of the things that's really interesting is we all listen to the community relations people. They all give us their presentation, but there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes in our senior living world or in the elder care world that you may not understand. And I think one of the things that we're going to do today is we're going to open up the hood, we're going to peel back the curtain, and we're going to talk about what goes on behind the scenes. And so we're honored today to have two incredible C-level executives here with Chateau Retirement, Mr. Jason Brooks, who is the COO of Chateau Retirement. And Jason, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So Jason, as the COO, one of the things I know is culture. Chateau Retirement, obviously, I walk right in to your building today and it says celebrating 25 years. That's huge to me in our industry. And obviously it's the culture you set. How does Chateau define culture?
Our culture is really defined by how we treat our employees and then how our employees treat our residents. It is done through a myriad of programs that we have in place, but at the end of the day, we want our employees to treat our residents like their family. And we're a family-owned company. We've been family-owned from the beginning. And having that family ownership really translates down to treating people with love, dignity, respect. And we figure as, in my role specifically and in the role of a lot of our upper level management people, we feel like our job is to take care of our employees because we know that a happy employee who loves where they work, who has been there forever, is going to treat the resident better than the ones that keep turning over and get new people in because you're not treating them well, and that's just not how we like to operate.
And it's the feeling of being excited to come to work today and building the relationships with the residents that are here.
Absolutely.
And that is something that, again, having that feeling of, wow, I get to go do this every day. I know what that feeling is like. And there's places that I've worked in my history of the working world where I didn't feel that. I didn't feel like I was appreciated. It was just a job, right? I don't feel that energy even exists here. I think I will never forget the first time I walked in the door when my mother lived in this community. And, the one thing that set your community apart from all the others that I toured that day was the laughing and having fun of the residents that were in that lobby.
It really begins when we first through our hiring process. When we're looking at candidates, we really want to bring in people who have a real cultural fit, have a real caring sense to them, a real sense of wanting to serve and do well for other people. Because whether they have the greatest skill sets at the time, we figure we can train them in all the things they need to learn. If they need to learn how to be a better server or be a better caregiver or be a better maintenance guy, we can teach them all of that. What I can't teach somebody is to care. I can't teach them to have that heart. They have to kind of come by that a little naturally.
Now, you've been here with the company for a while, but not a long while. When did you join?
So we were just talking about this earlier today. I've been with the company 9 years, which is the longest I've ever been with any company in my entire
Isn't that
life.
amazing?
So it
And
seems
yet-
like a long time for me.
And yet in the history,
And yet the history of this company, we have 6 people that have been here 25 years. So they started with this
Incredible.
building and have moved to different roles within the company. Actually, one of them is still here. And then Angel and I were talking, and we were having a debate on how many people do we think that have been here at least 10 years? Because 10 years seems like a long time, especially in our industry. And I threw out a number, and I'm too embarrassed to say because it was really low. And Angel threw out a higher number, and the actual number was double that. It was 62 people.
wow,
So,
for 3 communities, that is a huge amount of people.
Yeah, it's literally 25% of our workforce has been here
Amazing.
10 years plus.
Amazing.
I mean, it's
That's a
truly amazing.
legacy.
It truly is. Jim built an amazing company.
Yeah.
Amazing company.
Yeah. So what goes into building a legacy?
Well, I think you have to be very thoughtful about, like I said, the people. We always go back to the people. You also have to be very responsible with your growth and your trajectory. We're 25 buildings. We're looking at expanding here shortly again, but we built 3 buildings in 25 years. It was very steady. It was very purposeful. We had to make sure that we had the strong financials before we went out and built another one. Unfortunately, there's a lot of companies that get into the silver tsunamis coming, so they want to build as quickly as they can and capture as much of that as they can. And then they end up either being highly levered or they don't actually own the property. They're managing it for somebody else, so they don't actually get to make the call.
Yeah.
Right? Jim's always kept a very conservative fiscal approach to everything, which has really allowed us to do the right thing by our employees and by the residents from day one.
Yeah. And today we're seeing more and more of that. Oh, well, I think this is, I'm going to, as long as I stay with company A, no matter where I live, it's going to be the same. But not necessarily, because they may be a management company. It may mean that they don't own the building, but they just throw their name on the front. So that could change overnight. Tell me a little bit about, in your industry, how that works and what are the liabilities of that?
So there's a couple of different models out there, right? Some people are beholden to Wall Street because they're publicly traded,
Right.
And as share prices dip, they have to make sacrifices financially and cut back in services and programming.
Right.
Or if somebody comes in and they're a management company, they could be a management company and have to report to several different ownership groups. And then it gets really complicated because you can't have the same programming if you can't fund things all the same.
Sure.
So if you're a management company for multiple people, building A and building B, even if they're in the same town, may be completely different.
Yeah.
It could be a completely different culture that's being run through there because of how they have to manage the financial aspect of the business.
Yeah. And when you're talking about, when you're visiting, like somebody is visiting a community, do they think about often? I mean, I'm just rhetorically asking, how many individuals, when they tour a community, realize that maybe the name on the door isn't really who owns the building?
Yeah, I don't know that anybody really does, unless potentially they've seen that building change names over a couple of years.
Then you don't know.
They probably think, oh, that guy bought it, and then that guy bought it, and then that guy bought it. Well, it's the same guy who owned the whole thing the entire time.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's a question that anybody ever asks themselves. I've never had anybody. I've been doing this for 25 years. I've never had anybody ask me that question.
Exactly. I think that's one of the little known secrets in the senior living industry is how many organizations have had, buildings have had numerous names on the door.
Yeah.
And yet, in this 25 years, and I know in our area and wherever we are, Chateau will always just be Chateau because it's family owned and operated, and the continuation of that family still being a part of that legacy is so important.
I forget you met Tamara, that's right.
I did, yes. So obviously that makes you guys so much different in the way that you carry on the legacy and culture. But I think the other thing is that you have the ability to be responsive, I think, a lot more easily, being more in tune for what's going on because your decisions are centralized, I'm sure, in many ways. How does that affect your culture and the experience for the resident?
So it's really helpful that we have a whole leadership team that works out of our home office, and we are able to be in each of our buildings every week. We work in partnership with our buildings. We ask them for feedback. We ask them how they think we should make these next steps. We're very transparent across the board with everybody about what we're doing, why we're doing it, so they can give us that feedback, and then that can help us make those decisions and make them very quickly. One of the, this is more about how it affects the employees than the residents, but I tell people this story every chance I get because it's one of the things that really endeared me to this company, and Jim Godfrey specifically. Years ago, we had COVID hit. I'm sure you may have heard of it. It was a very hard time for everybody. We were a couple of months in, and Angel and I had been hearing stories about supermarkets and places paying hazard pay for COVID. So Angel and I got together and we discussed it, and we came up with a number, and we called Jim and we said, Jim, we think we should do hazard pay. He was like, well, what does that look like? And we gave him some numbers, and he goes, okay. I go, it's going to cost you a lot of money, but we think it's the right thing to do. He goes, well, if it's the right thing to do, we're going to do it. But it's the same amount per hour, per person, and they have to be working in the buildings. Not for the home office people that aren't at risk sitting back at the corporate office. The people in the buildings doing the day-to-day stuff, and I don't care if they're the executive director or the dishwasher, it's the same rate for everybody.
Well, and I think even more so, which is what we learned with Mr. Godfrey when we interviewed him before, was the fact that you guys were able to keep your same level of care because of that, where a lot of buildings during COVID, they actually lowered their staff.
100%, yep. We even, he even came to the table and let us average out commissions for marketers, because that's a big part of their pay, and we got to keep them all on board at their pay rate, and then they just helped kick in, because I couldn't do tours, but they helped with everything else that we had to do. There's still more to do, right?
Absolutely.
So it was a very hard time, but it was something that really endeared me to this organization.
So you've been here for 9 years.
Yep.
Tell me what keeps you here.
Gosh, like I said, I love the family values. I love the way we operate and treat people. I did move my mother-in-law in to the Bothell campus, so that's that's important. My daughter's going to work at the Bothell campus this summer, so we're going to keep that family legacy going. But it's just the way we're allowed to operate in a sense, in a place where we can come from our heart and use our heads, be smart business people, but really lead with our heart and lead with what's going to be best for the people. And Jim realizes that the bottom line will take care of itself if we take care of the employees and the employees take care of the residents.
Yeah, and that's the thing, care first.
Yep, 100%.
It's always been kind of a continuing thread with every single person that I've interviewed so far with Chateau. It's really clear your values. It is such an honor. Again, thank you again for being on the program.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Did you know that you can discover hundreds of podcasts in our library on senior care? So visit our website and discover our decision guides that will help you also navigate decision making. Find us at answersforelders.com.